The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a hushed whisper. Ambassador Kelly Adams stood at the threshold, her hands steady despite the nervousness churning in her stomach. The chamber stretched before her like a vast arena, rising in circular tiers that disappeared into the shadows of the domed ceiling. Each tier hosted delegates from hundreds of worlds, some humanoid, others utterly alien in form. Light cascaded down from hidden sources, illuminating the central speaking platform where Kelly would soon stand. The first human to address the Galactic Council in its 5,000-year history, the Council Arbiter, a tall, willowy being with silver skin and eyes like pools of mercury, gestured for Kelly to approach. 500 pairs of eyes followed her movement. Some curious, most dismissive, a few openly hostile. Human Ambassador Arbiter Vox announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. The delegate from the unaligned world Earth will now present their petition for recognition. Kelly walked forward with measured steps, her simple blue uniform stark against the elaborate attire of the alien delegates. She had refused to wear the traditional robes provided by the Council Protocol Office. Earth would not pretend to be something it was not. She stepped onto the speaking platform and felt it rise slightly, bringing her to the optimal viewing position for all delegates. A subtle reminder that she stood at their pleasure. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, Kelly began, her voice clear and strong. I bring greetings from Earth, a world you have observed from afar for centuries yet never approached. A ripple of discomfort moved through the assembly. For 10,000 years, the Council has maintained the borders of civilized space, facilitating trade, resolving disputes, and guiding younger species toward enlightenment. Kelly continued. Yet Earth remained isolated, watched, but never welcomed. The Arbiter shifted uncomfortably. We follow established protocols. Ambassador, the observation directive requires. Kelly raised her hand politely but firmly, interrupting the Arbiter, a breach of protocol that caused gasps among the delegates. We are aware of your directives, she said. We are also aware they have been selectively applied. She activated the small device at her wrist, and the chamber darkened as a holographic display appeared above her, showing a star map. Earth sits at the edge of what you call the Orion Spur, Kelly said, a seemingly unimportant region, yet in the past 5 centuries, Council observation posts have increased from 3 to 17. She highlighted the positions on the map, all watching Earth. All reporting to Council intelligence rather than the Cultural Exchange Commission. Murmurs rippled through the chamber as delegates leaned toward one another in hushed conversation. The Thraxian delegate, a massive insectoid with gleaming carapace, rose on his tier. This is outrageous. He clicked through his translator. The human has accessed restricted Council data. Kelly smiled slightly. We accessed nothing that was not freely available to those who know where to look. The truth was more complicated, of course. Earth intelligence had spent decades piecing together the puzzle, working backward, from intercepted transmissions and recovered fragments of alien technology. The breakthrough had come just 3 years ago, when they captured a damaged scout ship and its pilot. The alien had been treated well, returned to his people through neutral intermediaries, but his ship and its database had remained on Earth. Another delegate stood, this one a gelatinous being contained within a hovering mechanical shell. The human speaks as if her primitive world has rights equal to established members, she burbled, her tone dismissive. Kelly met the alien's gaze unflinching. Earth does not claim equality with the ancient members of the Council, she acknowledged. We claim only the right granted to all sentient species under your own charter, section 7, paragraph 4. The right to determine our own path without interference. The chamber erupted in voices, some outraged, others curious. The Arbiter struck his staff against the floor 3 times, bringing silence. You quote our laws, human, the Arbiter said, his mercury eyes narrowed. But you stand before us uninvited, having somehow obtained coordinates to Council space that should be beyond your technological capabilities. This suggests outside interference, perhaps from members seeking advantage. In regional disputes, Kelly had anticipated this accusation. Earth found its own way, she said. We reverse-engineered faster-than-light travel from a Council scout ship that crashed on our world. We learned your languages from its database. We found you because we were looking. Another wave of murmurs swept the chamber. You salvaged council technology. The Thraxian delegate clicked his mandibles in outrage. This is forbidden, is it? Kelly asked. Or is that another directive selectively enforced? She gestured, and the hologram changed, showing the borders of various council member territories. Each gained membership after being granted technology by existing members. The Thraxian Confederation received faster-than-light technology from the Pelgasi Union. The Juxari Republic was given gravitational manipulation by the Corward Alliance. Yet when humans develop these technologies independently, we are called thieves. The council arbiter stepped forward, his patience visibly thinning. State your purpose, Ambassador. He demanded, what does Earth want? Kelly deactivated the hologram, the lights returning to normal recognition. She said simply, not as supplicants but as equals. Earth does not seek membership in your council. We seek recognition of our sovereignty and non-interference in our affairs. The chamber exploded in outrage. Delegates rose from their seats, gesturing wildly. The arbiter repeatedly struck his staff, but the chaos continued. Through it all, Kelly stood calmly on the platform, waiting. When the noise finally subsided, she spoke again. We know why you watch us, she said quietly. We know what you fear. The chamber fell completely silent. Human genetic adaptability. She continued. Our capacity for rapid technological advancement. Our history of conflict and equally strong drive for cooperation. You fear what we might become. The arbiter stared at her, his mercury eyes unreadable. Earth is young, he said finally, too young for the responsibilities of interstellar politics. Your species still wars among itself, practices environmental degradation, holds superstitions above reason. Kelly nodded. We have our flaws, she acknowledged. We do not claim perfection, but neither will we accept being treated as children to be monitored and contained. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of various delegates. We are not asking for technology or protection or trade agreements. We ask only for the freedom to determine our own destiny, without council interference. A new delegate stood, one Kelly had not noticed before, small and hunched with pale blue skin and large eyes. Ambassador, the being said softly, I am Talix of the Mendari Compact. We were once like you, observed and isolated. The arbiter turned sharply. Delegate Talix, this is not the time. The Mendari raised a six-fingered hand. With respect, arbiter, it is precisely the time the human speaks truth. We all know but do not acknowledge. The council fears potential more than achievement. Other delegates shifted uncomfortably, some nodding in agreement. Kelly felt a surge of hope. The intelligence briefings had mentioned the Mendari as potential allies, but she had not expected public support. The human ambassador makes reasonable requests. Talix continued. Recognition of sovereignty is guaranteed under the charter. The debate erupted again, delegates arguing among themselves. Kelly watched as alliances formed and fractured before her eyes, the political landscape of the council revealing itself. After several minutes, the arbiter struck his staff with finality. The council will deliberate on Earth's petition. Ambassador Adams will be provided quarters during this time. Kelly bowed slightly. Thank you. Arbiter, as Kelly was escorted from the chamber, she caught the eye of the Mendari delegate, who offered a subtle nod. Kelly returned the gesture, her mind already racing with possibilities. Earth had expected rejection followed by threats. Instead, they had found potential allies and a divided council in her quarters. That evening, Kelly contacted Earth using the secure quantum communicator disguised as a personal ornament. Admiral. Diane Foster appeared on the small projection, her expression tense. How did it go? Better than expected, Kelly reported. They know we've been watching them as they've been watching us. The council is divided. Some see us as a threat, others as an opportunity. Diane's image flickered. Have you identified the faction responsible for the attacks on our outposts? Not yet, Kelly said. But I believe the Thraxians are involved. They reacted most strongly to our presence and the contingency plan in place. Kelly confirmed. The fleet remains hidden in the Ort, cloud ready if needed. But I don't think we'll need military intervention. The Council operates on consensus, and right now they can't agree on how to handle us. That gives us time for what exactly Diane asked, to build more ships. Kelly said simply, to establish more colonies, to make ourselves too difficult to contain. Then we negotiate from a position of strength. Diane nodded. Be careful, Kelly. The Council has existed for thousands of years. They didn't survive this long by being predictable. Kelly glanced around her quarters, aware that despite appearances of luxury, it was certainly monitored. I know, she said, but neither did humanity as she ended the transmission. Kelly moved to the viewport that showed the massive Council station extending like a metal flower in space. Earth had taken a gamble revealing itself to the Galactic Council before they were discovered, but it had been a calculated risk. The Council feared humans enough to watch them, but not enough to destroy them. That fear could be leveraged into. The Galactic Council chambers hummed with nervous energy as diplomat Mary Turner stepped through the massive crystal archway. Her simple black uniform stood in stark contrast to the elaborate robes and exoskeletons of the alien representatives gathered in the vast amphitheater. 500 representatives from across the galaxy fell silent as the human walked calmly to the center platform. Mary showed no fear as the hovering platform rose 15 feet into the air, positioning her at the focal point where every delegate could see her. The human delegation requests recognition, she said, her voice steady, despite the enormous pressure. High Counselor Tresh, a towering amphibian with iridescent scales, leaned forward from the highest tier. You have not been granted speaking rights, human, he said, his voice translated into a rumbling bass. This council does not recognize Earth or its representatives. Mary smiled slightly, an expression that caused several delegates to shift uncomfortably. Yet here I stand, she replied, and here you all are gathered in emergency session because of us. That suggests recognition, whether official or not. The massive chamber erupted in angry shouting, delegates rising from their seats, gesturing with appendages of all descriptions. The High Counselor slammed his ceremonial staff against the floor 3 times, bringing reluctant quiet. The Terrelian delegate, a being composed of what appeared to be living crystal, rose. This human mocks our sacred traditions, she chimed, her voice like breaking glass. The Earth vessels have violated restricted space, destroyed monitoring stations, and now they send this primitive to address us. Mary remained calm, her hands clasped behind her back. Actually, we destroyed no stations, she corrected. We simply disabled their observation capabilities. What you call monitoring, we call spying. Another delegate stood, this one a gaseous entity contained within a transparent suit. 7 Earth vessels appeared at the borders of Council space 3 days ago using drive signatures never before recorded. The human vessels ignored. Hales disabled 3 outposts and vanished. They reappeared yesterday at the very heart of Council territory here at the capital world. This is not the behavior of a species seeking peaceful contact. Mary nodded. That is correct. Our ships demonstrated our capabilities, then withdrew to show we could have attacked but chose not to. We then appeared here to request this meeting. The fact that your entire defense network failed to track our movements should be concerning to you. The Council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. We have observed your Council for decades. Mary continued. Your species have watched Earth from afar, believing yourselves undetected. You catalogued our wars, our achievements, our struggles, all while debating whether we should be quarantined, contained, or simply eliminated as a potential threat. The High Counselor stood to his full 12-foot height. These are serious accusations, human, he said. You claim knowledge you cannot possibly possess. Mary touched a small device at her wrist, and a holographic display appeared showing hundreds of documents scrolling too fast to read. Council Security. Directive 5591, she said. Regarding potential containment protocols for emerging civilizations with genetic adaptability ratings above Class 3. Earth has been designated a Class 5 for the past 200 years. Shocked whispers filled the chamber. The Kavari representative, a being with 4 arms and a mane of sensory tendrils instead of a head, rose. "What is your purpose here, human?" she demanded. "If you possess such knowledge and such technology, why reveal yourselves now?" Mary deactivated the hologram. Because the council recently voted to move from observation to intervention, she said simply, 6 days ago, this body approved the deployment of suppression field generators in the Sol system. These devices would have limited Earth's technological development, preventing further advancement in certain fields, particularly faster than light travel. We could not allow that. The delegates looked at one another in confusion. The High Counselor conferred quickly with several beings. Beside him, that was a classified decision. The High Counselor finally said, his amphibian features unreadable. "How could you possibly know of it?" Mary spread her hands. "We have friends, even here. Something many of you feared. Earth is not isolated among the stars. We have made contact with other species outside Council control species who recognize the Council's pattern of suppressing potential rivals." At this, several delegates stood shouting accusations at one another. The division within the Council was becoming apparent exactly as Earth had hoped. The Mendari representative, a small hunched being with pale skin, stood. "What the human says is true," he said, his voice soft, yet carrying throughout the chamber. "The Council has become an instrument of control rather than cooperation. The older members dictate policy while newer species are given the illusion of representation." The High Counselor pointed at the Mendari delegate. "You overstep." "Delegate Urza," he warned. "This human has no standing." Here Mary watched the confrontation with interest. Intelligence had indicated the Mendari were growing dissatisfied with Council policies. Their support was crucial to Earth's strategy. "High Counselor Tresh," Mary said, drawing attention back to herself. "Earth has no desire for conflict. We seek recognition, not domination, but we will not be subjugated. And if the Council refuses the Tyrellian crystal being chimed, what then will your 7 vessels declare war on 500 worlds?" Mary shook her head. 7 vessels would indeed be insufficient, she agreed. "But we both know Earth has more than 7 ships." With another touch to her wrist device, a new hologram appeared, showing the locations of over 300 Earth vessels scattered throughout. Council space positioned near critical infrastructure, trade routes, and even some homeworlds. "This is impossible," the gaseous delegate exclaimed. "Our sensors would have detected such a fleet." Mary smiled again. "No, they would not," she said, "because your sensors are designed to detect engine signatures, gravitational distortions, and energy weapons. Our ships use none of these." The Council erupted again in panic. Many delegates calling for immediate military response, others demanding verification. When order was finally restored, the High Counselor stared at Mary with new respect, or perhaps fear. "What do you want, human?" he asked, his voice quieter. Mary deactivated the hologram. "The same thing we have always wanted," she replied. "A place among the stars, determined by our own merits, not by the fears of others. Earth proposes a treaty of mutual recognition. We acknowledge the Council's authority over its member worlds. You recognize Earth's sovereignty and right to explore the galaxy. The terms are unnegotiable," Mary continued. "Our ships will remain in position until an agreement is reached. Should any Council world attempt military action against Earth, those ships have orders to respond proportionately. We prefer peace, but we are prepared for the alternative." The Mendari delegate stood again. "The human proposal is reasonable," he said. "Council law allows for sovereign powers outside Council authority. The freeholds of Antares, the Novan Collective, the Outer Rim Confederacy, all exist with recognition." Other delegates began to voice agreement. The balance was shifting. The High Counselor raised a webbed hand for silence. "The Council must deliberate," he announced. "We will reconvene in 3 cycles. Ambassador Turner will be provided appropriate accommodations during this time." Mary bowed slightly. 3 cycles is acceptable," she said. "Thank you, High Counselor," as the platform lowered, and Mary was escorted from the chamber by Council guards. She maintained her composure, but inside, her heart raced with triumph. Phase 1 was complete. The council was divided, uncertain, and most importantly afraid not of human aggression but of human ingenuity. In her assigned quarters, Mary immediately activated the secure communication device disguised as a simple bracelet admiral. Laura Peterson appeared as a small hologram, her expression tense. "They took the bait," Mary reported. "The council believes we have hundreds of ships in their territory." Laura nodded. "Did they detect the true nature of our vessels?" "No." Mary said they still think they're dealing with conventional ships, not realizing that what they saw were simply autonomous drones, no larger than a human hand, each capable of deploying a localized communication disruption field, but nothing more. The Admiral smiled. Earth, in reality, had only 20 true starships, but the Council didn't need to know that. The threat was enough. Our intelligence assets within the Council still in place. Mary confirmed. The Mendari are openly supporting us as expected, and several other delegations seemed receptive. The Council is fracturing along existing political lines exactly as we predicted, and if they call our bluff, they won't, Mary said with confidence. The risk is too great. Even if they suspect we're exaggerating our capabilities, they can't be certain, and uncertainty is our greatest weapon. Laura nodded. Phase 2 begins tomorrow, she said. Diplomatic Corps will transmit the full treaty proposal. The requests will be reasonable. Territorial recognition, non-aggression pacts, trade, agreements. Nothing that threatens Council supremacy directly, just enough to secure our position. Mary glanced out the viewport at the massive Council station extending into space like a metal flower. Earth had gambled everything on this strategy. Years of clandestine observation, careful intelligence gathering, and technological development focused on a single moment of revelation. Humanity had studied the Council, learning its weaknesses, its divisions, its fears, and now they were using. The grand doors of the Galactic Council chamber parted silently as Ambassador Tanya Wilson took a deep breath and stepped forward. A hush fell over the vast amphitheater filled with representatives from over 500 worlds. Some delegates resembled humans with subtle differences. Others were utterly alien forms of consciousness housed in bodies of crystal gas or pure energy. The air smelled of unfamiliar spices and ozone. Tanya walked steadily toward the central podium, her simple, navy blue uniform with silver Earth insignia stark against the elaborate ceremonial garb of the alien dignitaries. Her short auburn hair and unadorned appearance made her seem almost plain among the assembled grandeur. But her eyes, sharp and determined, revealed the truth of why Earth had sent her. The human approaches, said High Counselor Drav, his voice a melodic rumble that needed no translation device. The 12-foot-tall being, composed of interlocking plates of what appeared to be living stone, looked down from the highest tier of the chamber. Earth was not invited to this session. Tanya reached the podium, which rose silently until she stood at the focal point of the chamber, where all could see and hear her. Earth rarely waits for invitations, she said, her voice calm and measured. We prefer to make our own opportunities. Whispers erupted throughout the chamber. Some delegates leaned forward with curiosity. Others recoiled in offense at her boldness. You stand before the oldest governing body in the galaxy, Counselor Drav continued, his stone face unreadable. A body that has maintained peace among the stars for 50,000 years. We have observed your world for centuries, waiting for signs of maturity, signs we have yet to see. Tanya nodded, slightly in acknowledgement. The Council has indeed been watching Earth, she agreed, and we have been watching back. She touched the small silver band on her wrist, and a holographic display appeared above the podium, showing surveillance footage of alien craft in Earth's orbit, some dating back hundreds of years. The footage shifted to show alien observers walking among humans in various time periods, disguised but recognizable to those who knew what to look for. Counselor Lyrax, of the Viridian, conclave, a being of swirling green energy contained in a hovering metallic shell, rose from her seat. This is impossible. She hummed, her voice translating as feminine. The observation protocols are absolute. No species may know they are being studied. Tanya smiled slightly. Yet here we are. The Thraxian delegate, a massive insectoid with gleaming black carapace, clicked his mandibles in agitation. This human mockery must end. he chittered. We should remove this creature and sterilize their world before their contagion spreads. Several delegates shouted in agreement, others in protest. The chamber descended into chaos until Councillor Drav struck his ceremonial staff against the floor 3 times, bringing silence. "Why are you here, human?" he asked, his voice betraying genuine curiosity. "If not to petition for membership, what do you seek?" Tanya deactivated the hologram, Justice, she said simply. The chamber remained silent, waiting for explanation. For 600 years, the Council has observed Earth, she continued, cataloging our development, our wars, our art, our science. You have taken samples of our cultures, our technologies, our bodies. You have abducted humans for study, experimented on them, and returned them with their memories altered, but not erased. Never completely erased. She touched her wrist device again, and a new hologram appeared showing thousands of human faces of all ethnicities and ages. The faces began to speak in dozens of languages, all describing similar experiences. Bright lights, missing time examination, medical procedures. These are the memories you tried to erase. Tanya said, her voice hardening. But humans remember. We always remember. Even when the conscious mind forgets, the body remembers. The dreams remember. The collective unconscious remembers. Counselor Zell of the Proxima Hegemony, a vaguely humanoid being with 6 arms and blue crystalline skin, stood. "These accusations are outrageous," he said. "Our observation protocols forbid interference, do they?" Tanya asked, raising an eyebrow. "Then perhaps you can explain this." The hologram changed again, showing footage that caused several delegates to gasp. A council ship clearly marked with official insignia landing on Earth in a remote location. Council scientists, removing soil samples, plant specimens, and finally tranquilizing and taking a human child. The timestamp showed the incident occurred just 30 days ago. Councillor Drav leaned forward, his stone face cracking slightly in what might have been surprise. "This is not possible," he said. "The Council voted to end direct observation of Earth 2 decades ago, when your species developed rudimentary detection technology." Tanya nodded precisely. "That is why I am here today. Earth does not request membership. In your Council, we demand accountability." The chamber erupted again, delegates shouting accusations at one another. The political divisions within the Council were becoming apparent, exactly as Earth had hoped when order was finally restored. Tanya continued, "Earth has compiled evidence of over 20,000 violations of your own observation protocols, each documented, each verified, some conducted with full Council authorization." She glanced meaningfully at Councillor Drav. "Others," she turned toward the Thraxian delegation, "carried out by individual member species for their own purposes." The Thraxian representative rose, towering over his section of the chamber. "These accusations are baseless," he clicked. "You have no proof of Thraxian involvement." Tanya smiled again, her eyes cold. "We have the memories," she said. "And we have this." She held up a small device barely larger than her thumb. The chamber went completely silent. "What the human holds," Councillor Lyrax said, her energy form pulsing rapidly, "is impossible. It's called a quantum memory extractor." Tanya explained, "Designed to capture and preserve memories at the subatomic level. It can retrieve any memory from any being, regardless of biology, regardless of time, regardless of attempts to suppress or alter those memories." She set the device on the podium where it glowed with soft blue light. "Earth has developed this technology. Independently," she said, "we can access the memories of every being who has ever visited our world. Every observer, every scientist, every abductor." The implications hung in the air. No secrets, no deniability. Complete exposure of centuries of Council operations. The Mendari representative, a small gray being with large eyes and 7 fingers on each hand, stood. Councillor Drav. He said, his voice gentle but firm. "I believe we must hear the humans' demands." Several other delegates voiced agreement. The balance of power was shifting visibly. Tanya nodded, "In thanks to the Mendari, Earth proposes the following." She said first, immediate recognition of Earth as a sovereign power outside Council authority. Second, reparations for all humans subjected to experimentation or abduction. Third, a non-interference pact guaranteeing Earth's right to develop without Council oversight or intervention, and if we refuse, asked the Thraxian, his mandibles clicking in agitation. What can one world do against 500? Tanya looked directly at him. We would be forced to use the quantum memory extractor on a larger scale, she said, retrieving and broadcasting the memories of every Council operative who has ever visited Earth. The political fallout when your citizens learn how the Council has violated its own most sacred principles would be, shall we say, significant. Silence fell again, heavier than before. You threaten the stability of the Council, Councillor Drav said, his voice low. Tanya shook her head. No, she replied. Your own actions threaten that stability. Earth merely offers you the chance to address those actions. Honorably, before the evidence becomes public, Councillor. Drav conferred quietly with several beings beside him. Then he turned back to Tanya. The Council will require time to verify these claims and consider your proposal. 3 standard days, Tanya said. Her tone made it clear this was not a request but a deadline. The Council will reconvene in 3 days. Councillor Drav announced Ambassador Wilson will be provided appropriate accommodation during this time. As Tanya was escorted from the chamber, she maintained perfect composure. But inside her heart raced with cautious optimism. Phase 1 was complete. The seed of doubt had been planted. The Council was divided, uncertain, and most importantly afraid, in her assigned quarters. Tanya immediately activated the secure communication device disguised as an ordinary pen. Director Elizabeth Moore appeared as a small hologram, her expression expectant. They took the bait, Tanya reported. They believe we have a functional quantum memory. Extractor Elizabeth nodded on the tiny display. Did they question its capabilities? Some skepticism, Tanya acknowledged. But the evidence we presented was compelling enough that they couldn't dismiss it outright. The abduction footage especially was effective. And the real source of that footage. Our agents within the Thraxian hierarchy provided it as planned. Tanya said, they remain undetected. The Thraxians are clearly operating without full Council authorization, which has created exactly the division we're hoping for. Elizabeth smiled slightly. Sometimes the truth is the most effective weapon. How many Council members seemed receptive to our demands? At least a third, Tanya estimated, maybe more. The Mendari representative spoke in our favor openly, and several others showed support through their reactions. The political blocs are dividing along the lines our intelligence predicted, and if they call our bluff. The colossal doors of the Galactic Council chamber parted with an ancient groaning sound as Commander Heather Brooks stepped through the threshold. The vast amphitheater fell silent, 500 alien delegates turning to observe the human who dared enter their sacred hall uninvited. Heather walked with measured steps toward the central podium, her military uniform crisp and unadorned compared to the elaborate regalia of the assembled representatives. The central dais rose silently, lifting. Heather 15 feet into the air, positioning her at the focal point of the chamber, where every delegate could see her clearly. The massive curved walls displayed stars and nebulae, a reminder of the Council's dominion over thousands of worlds high. Councillor Nexus, a being of pure energy, contained within an ornate metallic frame, hovered forward from the highest tier. This Council session is closed to non-members, he said, his voice translating as deep and resonant. Earth has no standing here. Heather stood at parade rest, hands clasped behind her back. I come bearing an urgent message, she said, her voice calm, despite the pressure of 500 alien eyes upon her. A message your Council would do well to hear. The Zuvian delegate, a massive tentacled being floating in a tank of amber liquid, rippled in agitation. The human shows typical arrogance, she gurgled through her translator. We have observed your kind for centuries. You are aggressive, unpredictable, dangerous. Your civilization is barely 1,000 years old, yet you presume to address a body that has maintained galactic peace for 50 millennia. Heather smiled slightly, a gesture that caused several delegates to shift uncomfortably. You have indeed watched us. She agreed, and judged us and found us wanting. Yet here I stand before you not as a petitioner but as a messenger. The chamber hummed with whispers as delegates conferred with one another. The High Counselor raised a limb of swirling energy, silencing the assembly. What message could Earth possibly have that would interest this? Council Heather looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many delegates as possible. A warning, she said simply, and an opportunity. The massive Cronaxian representative, a being, resembling a bipedal rhinoceros with iridescent scales, stood abruptly. The human threatens us. He bellowed, his translator struggling with the volume. We should eject this primitive immediately. Heather remained perfectly still. I bring no threats, she said, only facts. You believe you have been observing Earth, discreetly studying our development, cataloging our strengths and weaknesses. She paused. What you fail to realize is that we have been watching you in return. She touched a small device on her wrist, and a holographic display appeared above the podium, showing detailed schematics of the council station, including security systems, power grids, and even the private chambers of several high-ranking delegates. Impossible, the Zuvian delegate gurgled, her tentacles writhing in agitation. This information is classified at the highest levels. Heather deactivated the hologram. Yes, she agreed. It is the council chamber erupted in chaos, delegates shouting accusations at one another. Some rose from their seats in anger, others huddled in worried conversation. The political divisions within the council becoming starkly apparent. The High Counselor pulsed with intense energy. The guards will escort the human to a security cell, he announced. We will determine how this information was obtained. Heather raised her hand. Wait, she said. There is more you need to know. Something in her tone caused the High Counselor to pause. The human may continue, he said. After a moment, Heather nodded. Thank you, she said. For the past 50 years, Earth has been developing a technology you believed impossible. Active gravitational cloaking. The chamber fell silent again. Every delegate suddenly focused intently on the human. Such technology is theoretical. At best, the Meridian representative, a tall, willowy being with crystalline skin, said, We have explored gravitational manipulation for millennia. It cannot be used to create true invisibility. Heather smiled again. Earth scientists approached the problem differently, she explained. Rather than trying to bend light around an object, they developed a way to phase matter slightly out of normal space-time. Technically, our ships aren't invisible. They simply exist partially in another dimension. The Ashkari, delegate, a being composed of thousands of tiny hovering spheres that collectively formed a roughly humanoid shape, spoke, its voice coming from all the spheres at once. The human lies, it said. No emerging civilization could develop such technology. Independently, it violates the natural progression of scientific advancement. Heather shrugged. I understand your skepticism, she said. It's why I arranged a demonstration. She tapped her wrist device again, and suddenly, alarm klaxons began blaring throughout. The council station red emergency lights flashed as panicked voices came over the communication system. High Counselor, a voice called. We have detected multiple unknown vessels within the station perimeter. They appeared out of nowhere. Sir, our sensors indicate over 100 ships surrounding the council station. The chamber descended into pandemonium. Delegates rushed toward communication panels. Security officers flooded into the room, weapons drawn. The High Counselor pulsed rapidly with energy as he attempted to restore order. Heather stood calmly amid the chaos, waiting. The High Counselor finally turned toward her, his energy form pulsing erratically. What is the meaning of this, he demanded. Earth has maintained a fleet in this system for the past 6 months, Heather explained. 120 ships positioned around this station just beyond the phase barrier. Now partially revealed to your sensors. What do you want? The High Counselor asked, his voice quieter. Heather looked around. The chamber meeting. The eyes of various delegates recognition. She said simply, Earth will no longer accept being treated as a primitive curiosity to be studied and contained. We request formal acknowledgement of Earth as a sovereign power outside council jurisdiction with all rights and privileges that entails. The Cronaxian representative bellowed in outrage. This is coercion, he shouted. The Council does not negotiate under threat. Heather turned toward him. This is not a threat. She said, it is a demonstration of capability. Had we wished to attack this station would already be destroyed. Our ships have been in position for months observing your operations, learning your protocols. We could have struck at any time. Instead, we reveal ourselves and request diplomatic recognition. The High Counselor conferred quickly with several beings beside him. When he turned back, his energy form had stabilized somewhat. The Council must deliberate, he said. Ambassador Brooks will remain here under guard. While we discuss this development, Commander Heather corrected politely, and I would prefer to return to my ship during your deliberations. As a show of good faith, I will order our fleet to withdraw to a distance of 1 light minute. However, they will remain partially phased and ready to return instantly should negotiations break down. After several tense moments, the High Counselor nodded. Very well, Commander, he said. You will be escorted to your shuttle. The Council will contact you when we have reached a decision. As Heather was led from the chamber, flanked by Council security, she maintained perfect composure, but inside her heart raced with triumph. Phase 1 was complete. The seed had been planted. The Council now knew Earth was not defenseless, not primitive, not containable. In her shuttle returning to the Earth flagship Vigilance, Heather immediately activated the secure communication system. Fleet Admiral Nancy Taylor appeared on the screen, her expression tense. They took the bait, Heather reported. The Council believes we have a functioning phase cloak fleet. The Admiral nodded on the display. Did they question the technology? Some skepticism, Admiral Heather acknowledged. But the sensor readings your team arranged were convincing enough. The sudden appearance of ghost signatures around the station was extremely effective. The Admiral smiled. Our intelligence assets within the Council, still in place, Heather confirmed. The security breach we demonstrated has convinced them they have a serious intelligence problem. The political blocs are dividing along the lines we predicted, with the older members pushing for military response, and the younger species urging caution, and if they call our bluff, they won't, Commander, Heather said with confidence. Earth only has 12 ships, not 120, and we certainly don't have phase cloaking technology, but they can't know that for certain, and the risk of being wrong is too great for them to chance conflict. The Admiral nodded. Phase 2 begins tomorrow, she said. A formal delegation will present our terms. Our demands will be reasonable. Territorial recognition, non-aggression pacts, limited technology exchange. Nothing that threatens Council supremacy directly, just enough to secure our position. Heather glanced out the viewport at the massive Council station, gleaming against the backdrop of stars. Earth had gambled everything on this strategy. Years of intelligence gathering, careful planning, and the courage to bluff on a galactic scale. They had studied the Council, learning its weaknesses, its divisions, its fears. And now they were using that knowledge to secure their place among the stars, through courage rather than force, through intelligence rather than violence, through the power of possibility rather than actual capability. The invisible fleet was Earth's masterstroke. Not because it existed, but because it might exist. And in the massive crystalline doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a low, resonant hum as Director Olivia Harper stepped through the threshold. She walked steadily toward the central platform, her simple black uniform contrasting sharply with the ornate ceremonial garb of the alien representatives filling the vast amphitheater. The chamber itself seemed alive with swirling lights and strange geometries that bent the mind when observed too closely. 500 delegates from across the galaxy watched in tense silence as the human reached the speaking platform, which rose silently, lifting her to the focal point of the chamber. Olivia stood perfectly still, her posture relaxed but alert, her eyes scanning the assembled representatives, noting their positions, alliances, and subtle reactions to her presence. Grand Arbiter Zolan, a being of pure light, contained within an ornate exoskeleton of precious metals and rare minerals, floated forward from the highest tier. This council session was closed, human, he said, his voice translated into a melodic yet commanding tone. Earth has not been granted audience rights. Olivia smiled slightly, a gesture that several delegates found unsettling. We rarely wait for permission, she replied, her voice clear and carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. That is perhaps our most defining trait as a species. The Valaxian representative, a massive tentacled entity suspended in a hovering tank of golden liquid, rippled with agitation. The human displays the very reason Earth remains quarantined. She burbled, her translator rendering her tones into something approximating feminine speech. They are unpredictable, aggressive, and show no proper deference to established authority. Murmurs of agreement spread through sections of the chamber while other delegates remained conspicuously silent. Olivia waited for the noise to subside before speaking again. I find it interesting, she said, that you have studied humanity for centuries, yet understand us so poorly. You mistake independence for aggression, curiosity for unpredictability, and self-respect for lack of deference. She gestured to the chamber around her. This council has existed for 50,000 years, you claim, maintaining peace, guiding younger species, preserving galactic stability. Yet in all that time you have never encountered a species quite like humanity, have you? The chamber fell silent as delegates exchanged glances. You have protocols for everything. Olivia continued. Classification. Systems, categories, patterns that all developing species are expected to follow. But humans, she smiled again. We break your patterns, and that terrifies you. The draconian delegate, a reptilian being with scales that shifted colors with his emotions, stood, his scales flashing angry red. This human wastes our time with philosophy, he hissed. We should remove her and strengthen the quarantine around their world. Olivia turned toward him directly. Your name is Ambassador Krell, she said, causing the reptilian to step back in surprise. You have served on this council for 87 years. During that time, you have voted to quarantine 17 developing worlds and advocated for the sterilization of 3 systems whose inhabitants showed what you termed dangerous evolutionary tendencies. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. How could a human know the voting record of a council member? Such information was restricted to the highest levels. Olivia continued undisturbed. You maintain a private research facility on your homeworld's third moon, she said, where your scientists study genetic manipulation techniques explicitly forbidden by council law. You believe your activities are secret? They are not. The reptilian delegate sat abruptly, his scales shifting to ashen gray. The Grand Arbiter pulsed with intense light. Enough, he said. You have breached council security protocols. This is a criminal act. Olivia shook her head. No, she replied. It is merely proof of my point. You believe you have been observing Earth. In reality, we have been observing you, learning your secrets, understanding your divisions, identifying your vulnerabilities. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of various delegates. We know more about this council than many of its own members. The chamber descended into chaos, delegates shouting accusations at one another. Some rose from their seats in anger, others huddled in worried conversation. The political factions within the council suddenly visible to all. When order was finally restored, the Grand Arbiter turned to Olivia. What is your purpose here? Human? He asked, his tone cautious. Recognition. Olivia said simply, Earth will no longer accept quarantine status. We demand acknowledgement as a sovereign, power outside council authority with all rights and privileges that entails. The Valaxian representative rippled her tentacles in what might have been laughter. You demand, she gurgled. What leverage could one primitive world possibly have against the combined might of 500 advanced civilizations? Olivia smiled again and touched a small device on her wrist. Leverage, she said, is relative. Suddenly holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber, showing detailed information about each delegation, security protocols, political scandals, private communications, hidden assets, corruption evidence, all displayed for every member to see. The chamber exploded in pandemonium. Information is our leverage, Olivia said, her voice cutting through. The Chaos Earth has spent decades infiltrating your networks, your databases, your communication systems. We have accessed everything. The Grand Arbiter pulsed erratically. Impossible, he said. No species at Earth's development level could breach Council. Security. Olivia deactivated the holograms. Yet here we are. She said, humanity approaches problems differently than the species you've encountered before. We don't follow your expected patterns of development. Your security systems are designed to detect and counter technologies similar to your own. You never considered that we might develop entirely different approaches. She paused, letting her words sink in. You quarantined Earth because you feared what we might become. But in doing so, you created exactly what you feared. A species that developed in isolation, learning to overcome challenges without guidance. A species forced to innovate in ways you never anticipated. The Meridian representative, a tall, willowy being with silvery skin, stood. What precisely does Earth want? She asked, her voice gentle compared to the others. Olivia nodded in acknowledgement. We want 3 things, she said. First, immediate recognition of Earth as a sovereign power outside Council authority. Second, unrestricted access to interstellar space for exploration and colonization. Third, a non-interference pact guaranteeing Earth's right to develop without Council oversight. And in return, asked the Meridian, we will share what we know. Olivia replied, we will not expose the secrets we've uncovered. We will not disrupt the Council or its member worlds. And we will establish diplomatic relations based on mutual respect rather than fear. The Grand Arbiter conferred quickly with several beings beside him. When he turned back, his light form had stabilized somewhat. The Council must deliberate. He announced Director Harper will be provided appropriate accommodation during this time. Olivia bowed slightly. Thank you, Grand Arbiter, she said. As a gesture of good faith, I will deactivate our active intelligence gathering operations during your deliberations. However, she looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of key delegates. Our defensive monitoring will remain in place. Should any Council world attempt action against Earth, we will know immediately and we will respond. Olivia was escorted from the chamber. She maintained perfect composure. But inside her heart raced with cautious optimism. Phase 1 was complete. The seed of doubt had been planted. The Council was divided, uncertain, and most importantly aware of their vulnerability. In her assigned quarters, Olivia immediately activated the secure quantum communicator disguised as an ordinary ring. President Eleanor Mitchell appeared as a small hologram, her expression expectant. They took the bait, Olivia reported. The Council believes we have compromised their entire information network. The President nodded on the tiny display. Did they question our capabilities? Some skepticism, Olivia acknowledged, but the demonstration was convincing enough. The personalized information we revealed about select delegates was particularly effective, and the true source of that information, our agents within the Council bureaucracy provided it as planned, Olivia said. They remain undetected. The targeted information exposed divisions within the Council, exactly as we hoped, creating factions that now distrust each other more than they fear us. Eleanor nodded. Our infiltration is far more limited than what you implied. Olivia smiled. Yes, Madam President. We have access to perhaps 5% of their systems, not complete penetration. But they can't know that. And the fear that we might have accessed everything is a more powerful weapon than any actual access. President smiled slightly. The oldest strategy in the book. Make your enemy believe you are stronger than you are. And what of our actual technological capabilities? Some delegates suspect we're bluffing, Olivia admitted, but they can't be certain, and the risk of being wrong is too great for them to chance conflict. Eleanor nodded. Phase 2 begins tomorrow, she said. The formal diplomatic team will arrive to negotiate terms. Once the Council agrees to our core demands, we can work toward a stable relationship. Olivia glanced out the viewport at the stars beyond Earth, had gambled everything on this strategy years of